Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Michelle Yates, a registered dietitian with my master's in health psychology. And this is the show to help you become more nourished and free with your relationship with food and your body. And today is such a fun episode because I get to talk with a client who finished the program Nourished and Free, which is my 4-month group coaching program where you get to work with me and my team on really digging through your relationship with food and your mindset around things and rewire all the things that need to be rewired so that you can be set up for success. She actually joined over a year ago and has been graduated for about 9 months now. And it's such a treat to be able to hear from somebody who is now that far out, because that's kind of a moment where you get to see like, okay, does this process, does this method, does it really work? And if you know me at all, you know that I am incredibly serious about making sure that what I do is evidence-based, that it's not going to just like be a waste of anybody's time or resources. I want whatever we do together to actually help you and be sustainable. And that's one of my just like biggest core values, is that everything we do is sustainable. And so to be able to hear from somebody who's this far out and get to check in and like kind of see like, okay, did this thing stick? Like, how are we doing? Is so special. So I'm really excited for you to hear from Wendy today about her experience in Nourished and Free, but also after, and how the last year has been. And if you get to the end of the episode and you relate to her, this is something that you've been thinking about doing, and now you're finally like, okay, now that I know it's sustainable, like, let's do this. Well, I guess I shouldn't give it away, right? Like maybe she'll say that it's not sustainable. Who knows? But you'll have to listen to the episode to find out. But anyway, if you get to a point where you're like, okay, I am ready to also be nourished and free, like, how do I join? There is a link in the show notes to apply for the program. So fill that out real quick. We'll get in touch with you about next steps and all of that good stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, please fill out an application. We'll chat more. And if it's not a good fit at the end of the day, I do want to make sure that you're not left just like hanging. So I'll try and give you some recommendations on what I feel like would be the best next steps for you. So without further ado, let's hear from Wendy and get insight into what life is like 1 year after Nourished and Free. Welcome to the show, Wendy.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. This is a really fun episode because it's been over a year since you joined. I just checked and you had joined Nourished and Free June 28th of last year.
End of June. So, yeah.
And then you finished up in October.
A month in. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is so fun because I like the whole reason that I do what I do is because I want to help somebody with the rest of their life, not just for the 4 months that we're working together. So this is like a treat for me to get to follow up. And I try to follow up with everybody later, but I don't always get responses, you know? So, so it's great to be able to sit down and chat with somebody who's been out of this for almost a year and see, did everything stick? Are we doing well? Is it like, did we backtrack? How did we adjust with the back? You know, like all of that. So this is going to be such a special experience. So thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad to do it. So, and I think as somebody who was in the position of considering whether to join your program at one point, hearing from people who had been through the program, and I think particularly, I don't know that I heard from folks who had been out a little while, but getting the perspective of somebody who has been out of the program for a little over a year and what that's like and their experience, I think can be very informative and helpful.
I agree. I think it is very powerful to see like, okay, long-term, how does this affect someone's life? So we're very used to thinking in the short term and like, what's going to happen? Like, how can I feel better right now? But we don't necessarily think about, I also want to feel better for the rest of my life too. So will this actually help me do that? But before we kind of get into how you're doing and everything, I'd love for you to share just a little bit about your story in terms of like what your relationship with food was like. I know you had some mama drama that you felt like contributed a lot to the issues you were having. So yeah, like fill us in on when you were coming into the process of joining Nourished and Free, where was your relationship with food at?
Yeah, and good memory. Definitely some mama drama. I will preface in case anybody ever recognizes me. My mother is a lovely human and very well intended, but that was one of the great things about the program is I really uncovered a lot of the root of why I had issues. And, my description, Michelle, I had a gerbil when I was a kid, so I always say gerbil wheel instead of hamster wheel. But I was on that gerbil wheel of just the negative food thoughts and feeling obsessed with food. And it's not that you had to be eating all day, but it was just like your mind was always consumed with food thoughts, and it just takes up so much space, and it's just this constant clutter. And you reach this point where you're like, oh my God, I'm so sick of this. I'm sick of feeling
Hmm.
like I don't have the willpower to control what I put in my mouth. I'm sick of feeling like I'm a failure because I can't
Mm.
have that willpower. um, you know, the judgment, the body image judgment, and
Yeah.
just always being so critical and harsh. And in addition to that gerbil wheel where you're always thinking about food, you always have that negative voice running in your head too about your body and comparing yourself and not living up to diet culture, which I
Mm.
had never really heard of diet culture till I started this program, and then things start to really click. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where I was at, and can get more into the mama drama or family stuff. But I really discovered that even though my parents were both well intended, a lot of their behaviors and their conversations and their just offhanded comments were some of the main contributors to where I wound up and why I got on that wheel to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were describing like the constant thoughts of food. A lot of times people refer to that as food noise. How did you feel like that food noise was affecting your life at all? I mean, did it change how you were living day to day, showing up at work, anything like that?
I think it changes how you approach a lot of things.
Mm.
It's like, okay, do I even need to go out with my friends if I'm just going to eat more stuff that's air quotes bad for me? Or do I need to sit this one out?
Mm.
Or if I go to this reception and there's, buffets and all of this great food, am I going to embarrass myself because my plate is too full?
Mm.
And there is this, sense of being deprived, and everything in your life has been measured and restricted. So when you go to those types of events, it's kind of like a free-for-all. I always talk about Templeton the rat in Charlotte's Web when he went to the fair, and he comes out and he's just kind of bloop 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 bloop, and
Hmm.
kind of just wobbling back and forth because he's so full. And nobody wants to be Templeton the rat. So I think all those feelings do sway your comfort level when you're at events, the decisions you make, and how you feel about yourself for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me more about what it was like to kind of uncover how your parents had shaped your relationship with food.
So again, well-intended parents, and
Sure.
mom always tried to cook healthy. There's stereotypes of the South that all we do is sit around and eat fried chicken and
Yeah.
fried pork chops and fried everything with butter and then
Where
put
are you
butter
from
together.
in the South?
Right outside of Savannah. So I'm
Oh,
from
okay. Yeah.
Statesboro, Georgia.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a lovely area. And a lot of the stereotypes, maybe they're true for some, but it's like anything else where a lot of them are kind of myths, right? And
Hmm.
so we did have fried chicken and we did have fried pork chops, but my
Hmm.
mom always had tomato slices on the side, and you had one
Yeah.
pork chop and not three. And we'd have carrots or we'd have some sort of fruit. So she did her very best to make things healthy, but she also was very restrictive. And it was like, things were plated for you and you didn't go back for seconds except
Mm.
for holidays. And we never had sweets in our house. You got
Yeah.
sweets when it was birthdays or you were traveling and you were on vacation. I remember going to my grandparents 4.5 hours away, and we either got to go to the right to the convenience store and get a candy bar, or to the left and get a dilly bar at the Dairy Queen. So those things were very, it was set up as like this very rare thing that
Mm.
you didn't have on a regular basis. So I had never equated it. And I remember when you said, I was almost shocked, but you said food insecurity. And
Hmm.
it really did create this sense of scarcity that
Yeah.
in my mind, when you go to those buffets or you go to a work event and they have, all the kind bars and stuff, you're like scarfing them away in your bag.
Yeah.
And it's like squirreling things back like you're never going to have food again. And you don't even
Yeah.
realize why you're doing those things because you can, as a rational person, say, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm a grown person. I have a good job. I make good money. I can afford kind bars. Why?
Hmm.
Why do I feel like I have to put five kind bars back over the course of a
Yeah.
3-day conference? So,
Well, yeah, it's like comforting,
mhm,
to be able to be surrounded by it and feel like, okay, I am not a child anymore. Like I am
yeah,
not feeling that sense of, oh, I wish I could have more. I wish my mom would let me have this. And
yeah,
yeah, the food insecurity thing, we usually think of that in the traditional sense where it's like somebody grew up in a poor household, they didn't have access to a lot of food, and that can definitely create an issue as well of like hoarding food later in life, again, as a source of comfort. But on the flip side, you can also have a kind of pseudo food insecurity if you've just had food withheld from you as a child, even though your family may have been able to afford it, or it wasn't necessarily like you didn't have access. It was just the access was taken away from you because of a parent deciding, no, you can't have more, you can't have this type of food or whatever. So it can create those same kind of issues where you're now feeling extra drawn to food
mhm,
because it's something that was taken away from you or that you couldn't have. We want what we can't have,
yeah,
we're creatures of jealousy, and
yeah,
grass is always greener,
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, what you said about, we were well off. We
Yeah.
weren't wealthy, but my parents were always responsible with money, and it's not
Yeah.
like we didn't. So, that clicking when you said food insecurity because I associated that with, being underprivileged or empowered. So I
Yeah.
almost felt guilty, like, no, I don't have the right to put that label on myself.
Mm.
And then it's like, well, it's not about that. It's about the actuality of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really helped me come to terms with why I did some of the behaviors and had the thoughts that I did.
Yeah.
And then, same thing with my dad. His side of the family has always been a little heavier. So, I got the comments from mom about, she'd say things like, oh, your aunt was about the size you are now when she got married. And that was her way of saying, you need to body check yourself because, she was your size now and look where she is now. And
Yeah.
she meant those things to be helpful, but, and then dad would have the heart to hearts, and it was coming more from a place of empathy from him, but it still was not helpful because so much emphasis was put on your looks and how that equated to weight.
Yeah.
So, fast forward coming through this program, something else that's really clicked and resonated is when I go home, I am hardly in the door when those two start having a conversation back and forth about who looks good. And to them, it's all about weight. So,
Yeah.
I literally will have just crossed the threshold and they'll be talking about someone from church or somebody they saw at breakfast. And it's like, oh, so
Mm-hmm.
and so looks great. She's lost so much weight. And
Mm-hmm.
now I can kind of distance myself and say, I don't have to buy into that. But
Yeah.
I see that it started at home. And when you have those conversations around you, it's not just the media, it's not
Yeah.
just the diet culture, it's the culture that diet culture creates in your
Yeah.
home. And so
Yeah.
I grew up with that, and that's what you hear, and that's the
Right.
pressure you put on yourself. So, again, they're both amazing individuals and super well intended, and they're not
Right.
hateful people, and they don't mean it that way.
Right.
They just don't know what they're saying or the impact of what they're saying. So,
Well, it's like you said, the diet culture and our wellness culture and skinny culture, all of that has impacted them to the point where it then impacts you. It's not necessarily that they're deliberately or maliciously thinking, I want to create issues for my daughter,
right.
like I want to put this pressure on my daughter so she thinks that she has to look perfect. Like, no, they're not. They're obviously not doing that. I don't think any parent ever is. It's just the the culture has impacted them in a way that it does change the way they think and the way that they speak and those things just kind of pour out of you, especially in the home when you're comfortable. And then as a kid or teenager or even grown woman, like those are people that mattered probably the most to you, right? And it's like, of course you're going to care about their opinion. You're not going to care about a stranger on the street's opinion nearly as much as your parents. And my cat.
I always love your cat. He's like part of your whole, brand,
He's
truly.
he I can't he doesn't understand schedules. He doesn't understand.
He just wants to
He
be a part of
can't
it. So
bother me during a podcast. Anyway, so it's tough because you internalize those messages and you want to please them. You want their approval. You want their respect. And so then you learn what they care about and what matters to them, which when you're hearing things like that, like, oh, they look so good, they lost weight. It's like, okay, I'm putting the puzzle pieces together. They care about bodies and how bodies look and weight. And that's tough to navigate, when you don't know how to reason through that.
I think something that also gravitated with me in this program along the lines of what you just said, and this was through you and also Danny,
Our
is
body image coach.
we are taught that our parents know best, and we
Yeah.
keep wanting their admiration, their respect, and so just disassociating that and looking at them as humans
Yeah.
versus our parents, and they're only doing the best they can, and they don't have
Right.
all the answers. Certainly they're wise and have great advice on many things, but they don't always know. And
Mm-hmm.
for years I tried to, because my mom is so healthy, and I talked about her kind of rationing things as I was growing up, and then as she's gotten older, she's gotten more into, Dad and I always joke that you could take everything in her kitchen and add it up, and then you wouldn't get to 600 calories. And it's like flaxseed goes on
Oh my
everything.
gosh, the flaxseed. I forgot about the flaxseed.
Yeah.
Wendy is traumatized by flaxseed.
Yeah, I
I
know.
remember I suggested it one time and you're like, no, 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 no,
I
no, don't
actually
talk.
swapped some. I've made peace with
Did
the
you?
flaxseed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay. You really are nourished and free. You
Yeah,
made peace
it's
with flaxseed.
come a long way. But she
Oh,
has
man.
gotten so just even more like health conscious, I would say, with
Yeah.
age. And it's great because she's now, 78, and she's still with us and is
Yeah,
doing
sure.
fantastic. So there's a lot of benefit to leading a healthy lifestyle. But for years when I was struggling, I would have that kind of, what would Brenda do? Sorry, I shouldn't tell my mom's name, right? But it was instead of what would Jesus do, it was with food and nutrition. It was what would Brenda do.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll remember my big epiphany when I said, I'm finally at this point where I'm like, what would Wendy do?
Yeah.
And that's the new mantra, because I don't
Yeah.
have to live my parents' life. I don't have to live mom's life, dad's life, diet culture's life, my friend's life. I get to be my life. I get to be
Mm-hmm.
Wendy's life and determine that. And
Awesome.
going through this program to me is almost like somebody handing you a golden ticket and you
Mm,
having this little secret power.
I love that.
And there's so many times when I'm at dinner with friends or we're in conversations and I kind of smile to myself because I hear the words coming out of their mouth, and I know that that does not impact me. That's not my choice anymore. So to give you some examples, you're at dinner and you're at a Italian place, and they're like, "Oh, well, I can't get the pasta because, I'm just going to blow up and be 2 million pounds if I eat the pasta."
A
Or
single plate of
they'll
pasta.
say, "Oh, I better be good and not get dessert tonight." Or recent example from this past week, some friends were talking about going to brunch this weekend, and they said, "Yeah, let's meet and go to brunch." I said, "Well, why don't we go for a walk beforehand?" And the immediate response was, "Oh, great idea. We can earn our brunch
No.
calories." And I felt like I had that golden ticket in my back pocket.
Mm,
You have to be careful because you can't impress your views upon others.
yeah,
There's a time and a place and a way to do it. And
right.
if it starts to conflict with the way I want to lead my life, I'm very open now about my choices if they
Yeah,
want to hear that. But I don't go into, I don't believe in that and da da da. But I
yeah,
don't. And it makes me feel like I have this secret weapon, and I
Mm.
don't have to buy into that. I wanted to get a walk just because I wanted to get a walk. It had
Yeah.
nothing to do with earning my food or feeling better about my food. I can go and I can eat whatever I want at the brunch.
Mhm.
And, I know I'm not, uh, I'm just kind of on a roll here, but I'll just say that it's really fascinating in those first few months with the program. I feel like I went out and I systematically bought all the things I was never allowed to eat that I felt like other people could eat, but I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
So, I bought all the sweets, I bought all the chips, all the things that were never in my home that I only got my aunt that I was her size when she got married,
Mhm.
all those things were at her house.
Mhm.
That's the only time I ever got to eat them, right? So
Mhm.
I went out and I bought all the things. We talked. I remember the program talking about Oreos, and you always use that as a great example. Oreos and donuts are your two,
They
right?
have it's something about Oreos that it's
Yeah,
just like statistically there's something there that it is like people feel like Oreos have power over
yeah,
them at time and time again.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I
I
bought the
interrupt.
Oreos and I bought all the things, and this amazing thing happened. Things started to get stale before I
Yeah.
would eat them,
Yeah.
and have to throw them out. Or you realize, okay, I've denied myself this for so long, but I don't actually like this. Like, it doesn't even
Yeah.
taste good. It tastes fake, or like
Isn't that
over
wild?
manufactured, or the chocolate doesn't taste like true chocolate, or
Yeah.
you just, and then it's like, okay, this food does not have this power over me anymore. And
Yeah.
then you can have a salad not because you're supposed to, but because it nourishes your body. And you
Mhm.
can go have the walk before brunch because it sounds fun, and not because you're punishing yourself and you have to exercise.
Which is interesting that you were the one that had the idea to go for a walk because it was something you genuinely wanted to do,
Yeah,
right? Like they were like, "Oh yeah, good idea," but they didn't have the idea first because for them it would have been about earning their food, and typically we don't want to do things that feels like a punishment. We
right.
want to do things that we enjoy.
Yeah,
So, it's like it becomes easier to live a healthier lifestyle when it's something that is about enjoyment and pleasure and feeling good instead of about punishment. And that's like, yeah, you got to go through those phases of like making peace with the Oreos and stuff so that you can figure out, do I actually like this thing? Maybe I don't. I've just like created this obsession around it because it was only something I could have at my aunt's house. And that's so it felt extra special. But now that I'm eating it now, I don't actually like it. And I would have never known that unless I'd asked myself those questions and reflected, you know?
kind of like
And I think,
sneaking a drink before you're 21. You want to do it because it's taboo, and
yeah,
like, oh my god, let me
absolutely.
sneak an Oreo, and then you're like, I'm an
Yes.
adult. I can go buy Oreos. Who cares? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you mentioned that things would go stale. Would that ever happen before you had joined? Like if you did allow something like Oreos in your house, would they ever get to that point of like going
God,
stale?
if they made it to 2 days, it'd be miraculous. If they're in there, it's like you could sit on the couch, but there's like this beacon calling you to the kitchen to get
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
Oreos. And you
The food
space them
noise.
out.
It's the food noise.
You can eat four every 2 hours. You don't necessarily sit and have a quote unquote true binge where you're sitting and
Yeah.
eating the whole thing. But over the course of 2 days, they're slowly going to decrease. So no, and and thinking about this podcast, I thought it'd be kind of neat to just go back and look at a couple of my notes from the beginning of the show,
Oh yeah, you
or
were a
beginning of the
great note
program.
taker. I loved it.
Yeah, and I read something where I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm no longer night eating," and I had
Mm,
kind of forgotten that night eating was a thing for me. But I would come
yeah.
home and eat dinner, and then 2 or 3 hours later, I'd go and fix myself a snack, and it was like every evening, even if it wasn't a big thing. And I wouldn't say it was, and some people have truer binges. This wasn't like a binge, it was just like an extra snack that I didn't need. I wasn't
Mm.
hungry.
Yeah, you felt
It
like
wasn't
it was
serving any
truly
sort
over
of,
the need.
yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
serving any purpose for my body. It was more of a mental, and I didn't know the why behind why I was doing that. But
Yeah.
One thing you find, and I think that amazed me and others in this program, is just how quickly you start to see changes. I don't know what your voodoo magic is. And I know you're a Christian person, so I don't mean that in a negative way, but I swear you're doing some voodoo magic because
Yes. Yes. You're all joining my cult. I'm forcing my faith on you.
it clicks really
Just
fast.
kidding. No, that, yeah.
You
Yeah.
start to see those results, and it's like, just a couple of weeks in, I wasn't getting that siren, pull, the siren song pulling me into the kitchen to
Yeah.
anything anymore. And to
Yeah.
the point that a year later I forgot that I even did that. Like now
Yeah.
now I come home, I have dinner, and it's good. If I get hungry later and it's
Hmm.
truly hunger, sometimes it's just you're thirsty and you have a glass of water and you're done. But if I'm
Hmm.
truly hungry, I'll go and I'll eat something. And
Yeah.
which is kind of another cool point, letting go of so many of the rules that are imposed upon us. And for me, a biggie was, you always hear that, oh, don't eat after 7. Well, I do
Oh, yeah.
tennis. I do tennis in the
Classic.
evenings, and it's really hard. The last thing you want to do before you get off work at 6 or so, then you're trying to make tennis at 7. That's not enough time to have a meal. I
Yeah.
could never figure out what to do with that. But I was told I
Yeah.
couldn't eat when I got home. Well, then you come home and you're ravished. And so now it's like, okay, I'll have a snack. I'll have some nuts or something that's filling enough to get me through tennis and sustain me through the tennis. And then I come home and I'll have a light meal. And I
Hmm.
don't feel guilty about that, which is pretty
Good.
awesome.
Yeah. Whereas before it would have been like, oh, I'm not supposed to eat this. I'm not supposed to eat this. I'm not
Supposed to
supposed to
do
eat
that.
this, which could have then even created like choices that ultimately didn't serve you potentially, because there's this sense of like, well, I'm eating anyway, so I might as well just like rebel and like have,
I'll just go
the
for it.
Oreos too. Yeah, and go for it. Or you still make maybe the same choice. It's just that now it's psychologically stressful, distressing to just have a meal, which is like your human right.
Yeah. Now I definitely feel a lot more in control, and some of my triggers, traveling was always hard.
Yeah.
Going to events was always hard.
And you travel a lot for work.
Do travel a lot for work and fun, and those were always challenging times. And coming home from travel when you're
Yeah.
really tired was always, you've burnt the candle at both ends, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna go home and I'm gonna order a pizza, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat the majority of the pizza because I'll get back on the diet, or the what I should be doing, air quotes again, wagon tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
Monday's another day. It's Sunday night. I'm going to order the pizza and I'm going to eat most of the pizza. And so for me, this is a journey, and that's something that you talk about a lot, is that it doesn't end after 4 months. There's still work to be done. You
Yeah.
have to constantly, work to sustain, the thought process and
Yeah.
why you are doing the things you do. And I do occasionally review my notes, or I'll go back and watch a video, and
Hmm.
it just kind of bumps you back up and gets your compass pointed in the right direction again. But
Yeah.
for me now, instead of coming home from work when I'm tired and ordering a pizza, I'll order grocery deliveries, and I'll make sure there's a rotisserie chicken or something, that's um, to me feels better for my body
Yeah.
than a pizza would. And it feels
Hmm.
like I'm setting myself up for success for the week by having the groceries already in the house, instead of, okay, I ate most of the pizza. Now I'm going to have whatever's left tomorrow for lunch. And then I still don't have groceries and I still feel like crap. And so it's just like this ongoing cycle. So
Hmm.
definitely a lot more control with that.
And what I love about that is that it's like, it sounds like you genuinely just would rather do that instead of ordering the pizza. And I think like you can hear that and have the experience of like, well, yeah, like I order groceries when I get home too, but maybe that person's experience is, well, I'm ordering it because it's like I am forcing myself to. I
Mhm.
actually want the pizza, so I'm miserable eating the rotisserie chicken, and then I end up
No, it just,
going and getting pizza the next day because I really did want it after all. Like it's so nice when it's just like natural, and this is actually what I want. This is
yes.
just,
And if I want a pizza, order the pizza.
yeah,
I also
pizza's
don't feel
delicious.
I don't feel like I have to eat the whole thing. Maybe I go ahead and like freeze half of it, and
Oh, that's a good idea. Why have I never thought of that?
put a little water on it, put it in the oven. It's fantastic. So yeah,
What the heck? Why have I never heard of this? That's
try something
amazing.
out. So yeah,
Everybody's obsessed with air fryers right now. Do you have an air fryer?
I don't,
I
but
don't either. I wonder if that would work.
I am enjoying playing around with cooking. One thing that Caslin, who's on your team,
Yeah.
she mentioned Ambitious Kitchen, and that's a great one. If
Yes,
you
she
can
loves
find
Ambitious
someone to
Kitchen.
follow who has some recipes that maybe aren't the things you always do, but
Yeah.
one thing with me, so there's pre-diabetes, there's diabetes. I'm teetering on the edge of pre-diabetes. So I'm not even to pre-diabetes yet, but I'm right there on the cusp. So, before this program, that would have sent me into a tailspin, and I would
Mm,
have been all about the diets and I've got to do something drastic, and it would have backfired like it has on so many people, right?
yeah.
But I feel like this program gave me the tools to where I can look at this as an adventure.
Mm.
And so I'll go through and I'll pull recipes and I'll have fun ordering those groceries and I'll try new things. And that's why I bought the flaxseed, by the way. So it's starting to do recipe and it's delicious.
Yay.
So, rather than feeling like I have this noose around my neck and this is
Yeah.
a bad thing, I'm really actually having a little fun with it and just trying to do things that make me feel good and where I feel like I have control versus this is, woe is me and spinning out of control. So even
That's
though
so
I'm
amazing.
having to walk that line and take care of my health, it's not a bad thing. I have
Mm.
opportunities, I have options, and I have the tools and resources that Nourish and Free provided for me to be able to do this.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so good. I remember we talked at one point about some of the things that had surprised you about this process that you weren't expecting or that you were maybe had reservations about. So I'd love for you to share that, whatever you're comfortable with, that had surprised you about this process, whether it was about the process itself or your experience going through it or what came out of it, anything and everything.
Yeah, so the biggie for me was the group setting and the camaraderie.
Hmm.
To me, these things are so private, and I think even for those of us who can be more extroverted, talking about these things, it's like you just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I was very hesitant to enter a program with a group setting. Number one, just because of the taboo of even talking about these things. And number two, I didn't know if I would get the level of attention that I personally needed.
It's fair.
And it's like, okay, are they just, doing a cattle call and pushing us through? And
Which
so, but
in some cases that is how it feels. So I think that's a very valid concern. Like a lot of times with group settings, you get lost and you become just another number.
well, again, this goes back to your voodoo magic. I think you have a you have a real system worked out, and very quickly I changed my mind.
Mm,
And the comfort of finally realizing you're not alone and that other people are on that gerbil wheel or hamster wheel with you. Other people have had those constant food thoughts. Other people have had the body image doubts, the issues with diet culture, or constantly
mhm,
trying to diet, or whatever their food situation is. And I know it runs the gamut from disordered eating to true eating disorders, but you quickly realize that you are not alone. And it's
mhm.
it's kind of like this program is kind of like going into the Marines. You go in as one and you come out and you're kind of sisters in arms, and it's like
Mhm,
you have this camaraderie and there is this support. And even after the program, there's several of us who stay in touch on
mhm.
Slack or through Facebook, and we may not talk a lot, but it's just seeing them and knowing we had that shared experience. We'll always have that bond.
Yeah.
And during the program, having that constant support and just the empathy that comes with that is
Mhm.
priceless. So that's
Yeah.
my biggie.
Yeah.
With that, I already mentioned just how quickly things start to move. And
Mhm.
I think, it's always, that phrase garbage in, garbage out. You get out what you put in. So if you go
Yeah.
into this and you're nonchalant and you're like, I'm just going to chuck down my money and I'm going to show up, and really wait for voodoo magic, right? You can't do that. You have to put a little work in.
And it does take effort.
You have to participate in the calls. You need to,
Mm-hmm.
I know some people aren't as comfortable with Slack, but for those of us who did participate and try to support one another, I think we got more out of the program. If you get in your own headspace and you do, I'm not great at journaling in the traditional sense, but I took notes on my phone. And
Yeah.
every time I was on a group call or, running across something in your social media post that resonated with me, I jot those down and they've become like little mini mantras. I remember somebody
Yeah.
going through the program at the same time with me. She would take them and put them on post-it notes and put them on her mirror.
Yeah.
I loved that. So
Yeah.
you truly get out what you put in, but the program works and it does work quickly if you are doing the work.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because when people are thinking about joining, the natural question is like, well, does this like, how many, or what's your success rate, I guess? And I will never claim to have a 100% success rate because that would be stupid. Everybody knows that that would be a lie. And at the same time, like when somebody is not successful, that bothers me because like I don't want people to join and not be successful. So I like dig into it and I try to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if not every time, it's like it kind of what you were mentioning where there's like this kind of waiting for things to happen to you instead
Mm-hmm.
of making moves yourself. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's like something that is always so important to me that people understand is like, you can't just come into this and then like, we're not going to fix everything for you while you're just sitting there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we're giving you tools, but you have to actually pick up the tools and use them yourself. It's like a college course, you're getting education. You get to decide whether you show up for class and you study.
Nice.
That's on you. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you do, you're going to ace the test. If not, you're not going to ace the test. You know what I mean? So at the same time, I'm making it sound like it's super intense. I feel like it's not super intense. I think you can work it into your life pretty easily, but it's nice when you do have that camaraderie because when you are going through something like this, I think it's so easy to just dig yourself into a hole of guilt and shame and embarrassment and like not want to talk about it and feel like you're alone, which everybody does. So then you do feel like you're alone because nobody's talking about it. So I think it's actually
Yeah.
really beautiful. And that's why it's a group project or a group program, because I want people to realize you're not alone. And you do have many people that resonate with you and you can learn from each other too.
Mm-hmm. That first group call, I was truly mesmerized because the women on that call were so beautiful. Everybody looked different. Some people had straight hair, some had curly hair.
Yeah.
Some people were older, some people were younger. They had different accents, they had different smiles, but everybody was just so beautiful. And it's like, here is a group of talented, successful women who have beat the crap out of themselves for years.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, that's me. I'm successful in my career. I have a good life. I have great friends. I have great family. And yet you just beat yourself up. And just that reality that, wow, these people are so beautiful and successful and fun and likable, but they have the same common problem. So being able to work on that together was really, really cool. And also, I will say too, the money is tough. It's hard to track down money. I think you do a good job of explaining, think about all the things, think of all the pizzas you've ordered on the Sunday nights where you're going to get back on the diet wagon on Monday morning. Put it in that perspective or think about the cost to your health. My advice on that is the program is legitimate and it is totally worthwhile.
Yeah.
And it is, if you let it be, it will be life changing for you. So if people have concerns about that, I'll help assuage that concern. And then it is hard too because you're very clear up front that this isn't a diet program. It's not designed to make you lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a year out. I've not lost weight, but I'm a lot better about the voices in my head. A quick example, yesterday I was in yoga and there were only about 5 of us in there, and you could really see everybody in the mirror in front of you. And I'm looking at myself when I'm twisted in a knot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my middle is just huge. And I caught it and I was like, what does that do for you? Does that help you? You were here, you showed up, you're enjoying yourself, you're doing something you like that is healthy for you. And that has no place here.
Mm,
That thought has no place in your head.
yeah.
And I went back to enjoying the class,
Love it.
and I quit comparing myself to other people in the mirror and I just enjoyed the class. And that's hard. And that's where the continuing work comes in.
Yeah.
But you get better. The food thing for me was actually the easy part. And I thought that would be the hard part. The body image is where I
Yeah.
continue to work. But I'm set up to be able to catch those things and reframe what I'm saying in my head.
Love it. Yeah, I think you've given a really good example of coaching yourself, and that's like kind of tying back to what you said earlier about this. Yeah, yeah, I do always tell you guys like it's not a 4-month thing and then you're done. Like this is a foundation. We're spending 4 months building a foundation so that you can continue on. And a part of that is like I want you guys to learn how to coach yourselves. I don't want you to continue to rely on the team because that would get really expensive if you had to pay us for the rest of your life. And I don't wish that on you. But also, like, how would I be serving you if I made you rely on me? That's not serving you. And so, what I want for you guys is to get to a place that a year after you're done, you've been able to coach yourself through a bad body image day or whatever it is, which is like exactly what you're describing. And
Yeah,
so like it just makes me so happy to hear that you are able to handle those moments well. And of course you have those thoughts come up, of course you do. Like you're a human, and it's not that they're going to go away completely. That would be an unrealistic expectation, but the way you handle it is different, and it gets easier, and you move past it quicker and quicker each time.
it does.
um,
It does.
so
And there are times that, I foible. For me, I mentioned earlier that preparation really helps me, like the
mhm.
buying the groceries. So
Yeah.
I'm, killing it at home. I'm killing it with, if I go somewhere, throwing a snack in my bag. I visited family that they don't eat, on a regular basis. And they may
Mm,
eat really early and then not eat until really, really late.
I
So,
cannot fathom
and
that.
I kind of have my body gets hungry on schedule, and so
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm
I
like
just
every 3 hours, like, all
yeah,
right,
so I
good.
just throw fruit or whatever in my bag, and I just whip it out. I have no
Yeah.
shame in that, and that makes me feel like I'm in control. So
Mm,
the times that are toughest for me are no longer the work events, the buffets, home, travel, coming home from travel. The hardest for me is when I'm completely out of control. For
mm,
instance, if I visit somewhere and they are doing all the menu planning and I don't have access to groceries and snacks would be insulting,
mm,
and I just have to eat what is before me. And those
yeah,
times are really, really hard.
yeah, which is
But I've
understandable.
learned to just, okay, do what you can, do your best here, and this is temporary. And when you get
Yeah,
home, you regroup and you get to go back to what would Wendy do.
yeah,
So those are hard, and I have to try really hard to not tailspin on
mm,
those. But I have that awareness too. So it goes back to what
mm-hmm,
you said about the self coaching. So I
mm-hmm,
may hit a little slump when I'm in that situation. I had that happen over the summer where I was
mm-hmm.
visiting lovely friends, but zero control over menus, and that was
Yeah,
hard.
that
But
can be hard.
I,
Absolutely.
I don't want it to turn into a 3 week thing. I need it to be the 3 day thing, and then I get back to me. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
work, but it does get easier.
Do you feel like so in the past when you've like attempted to lose weight, and typically when we are setting out to do that, it's coming from a place of like, this will make me happier to do that. I will finally be happy. I'll finally have like maybe this food noise gone because then I'll be content with my body, yada, yada.
Mhm.
Do you feel like, even though this wasn't a diet program, it wasn't about weight loss, it was
Mhm.
about so many other things, did you get to that place where you achieved that peace and happiness or something along those lines that you were searching for before when you would
Mhm.
try to lose weight? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, if I may, I'm going to read you a post
Ooh.
from this was one of my last posts from
Oh.
the program. This was one from Slack, and it was like one of
Okay.
the last couple. For years and years, I prayed for God to give me willpower to get my weight under control. And that's in air quotes too, right?
Mhm.
Despite having a good and happy life, I suffered from the if onlys, which is what you were just talking about, right?
Yep.
Suffered from the if onlys for decades. If only I were thinner, guys would like me more and I'd get asked on more dates. Um, if only I could get back to X weight, I would be comfortable wearing this or doing that or going to this event or vacationing wherever. Or even as successful as I've been in my career, there was that component too. Maybe I'd be more successful. And always it was if I only had the willpower to control what I put in my mouth. But it turns out I was praying all those years for the wrong thing. It was never about the willpower, it was about figuring out what within me was leading to the problems. The story of me that led to the unhealthy dieting, restricting, body blaming, negative self image and fat shaming, emotional eating, binging at times, and always, always being on that obsessive gerbil wheel of food thoughts and hearing that voice in my head that criticized me for not being able to willpower away my problems and become thin. So, this is where it turns, right? God led me not to willpower, but to a path where I could finally unchain my mind from the shame and negativity and start to work on accepting my body and gaining self compassion. I look to a future where I don't have to diet. I can eat as I wish. I can check diet culture at the door and let my hunger be my guide. Importantly, I will continue to embrace food and exercise as a normal part of what nourishes my body and frees my mind.
Mhm. I love that. That's
Yeah.
so good. It's a good example of how sometimes what we want is not what we need.
Mhm.
And that can be hard to reckon with.
Yeah. There's that Garth Brooks song about unanswered prayers. I actually mentioned that in the post, but I cut that out of what I just read. But yeah, it's kind of true. Those unanswered prayers. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a no because he's got something better in store.
Yeah. And it was never about willpower, which was
Mm-mm.
very liberating to set yourself free and no, you weren't a failure. You were just a product of your environment and the position you
Yeah.
were put in. And your mind picked up those things that were around you and you were doing the best you could. With my case, my parents were doing the best they could, but you don't have to get trapped in that. You can find a
Mhm.
way out and you can find a way that you just feel like this weight is lifted from you.
Mm, I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts or advice or things that you're like, I want somebody that's considering this to know this?
Just know that it does work. It is one of the greatest resources that you can invest in for yourself, and that you're not alone. And there's so many people who struggle with the same exact problems, and you will find solace in that and success.
I appreciate that, Wendy. You have been such a joy for us to watch your journey, and especially just as you were working through everything from your childhood and seeing how your family's impacted your relationship with yourself. It's like so beautiful for us to see you working through that and being freed from that and being able to now live your life based on what Wendy would do instead of somebody
Mhm.
else or your
Yeah.
mom. Like that's,
Mhm.
you are like the picture of being nourished and free now. And that was my desire for you when, we initially started talking. It's like, I don't want you to feel this way. I want you to like feel that freedom to nourish yourself well and it not be a big deal and you not feel like dragged down by the weight of food noise and body image distress. Like you deserve better. And now you're there
Thank you.
and it's going
And
to get better
just,
and better.
the being able to be present with people and go somewhere because you like that place, or go to an event because you like that event, or be with these people because you like them. It's not that you didn't enjoy them before, but there was always that clutter. And
Mm-hmm.
I do feel more present
Yeah.
and more at ease and more like I can really enjoy things or not. There may be
Yeah.
things that I'm like, I don't want to go do that, or I don't want to go eat that.
Yeah.
Not because I'm avoiding it, but because that just doesn't sound
It's
fun.
just not worth
Doesn't
it.
sound like my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But it gives you that power to control what you're doing and enjoy the things and the people you choose to be around.
Mm, I love that. Thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy
Yeah.
gal, and
And
I mean,
one last thing I do want to
oh
say
yeah,
too is
yeah,
that I was so pleased to see so many people younger than me in the program.
mm,
The program's for anybody of any age, but don't wait. I wish I would have done something like this 20 years ago. You wouldn't have been
mm,
doing this 20 years ago, but
true.
don't live in that, just with that weight
Yeah,
if you don't have to, and you don't
yeah,
have to. So, it was just heartening for me to see people going through this program 20 years younger than me because, ah, if only, there's my if only I had done this sooner. But I'm so glad I did it when I did.
now you get to enjoy the rest of your life.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I resonate with that too. It's something that like I feel so grateful that because I mean I've gone through a lot of similar things that you've discussed and experienced, and it's fun for me to see you guys get to a place where you essentially get your life back and all of that buzzing and that like it's almost like your life gets blurry because you can't fully be present and focused.
Yeah.
When that's like gone, I I know what that feels like. It's like your world goes from black and white to color. And now you really do get to enjoy things and be a part of things and you have more agency about yourself and it's like you can actually reach your full potential, and live your life the way that you really want to, not just like attempt to live it, but continue to fall short because you've got this like cloud over your head. So it's so fun to see you guys experience that because it's like something that I've been able to experience myself, and I just want everybody to know what that's like that's had the same issues that we have because it's so like you do not have to live your life constantly thinking about food or your body. You really don't.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Get off that dang gerbil wheel and bury it in the backyard.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you so much for giving us the gift of your time today. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you for sharing this. 1 year later, doing amazing, off the gerbil wheel for good, coaching yourself through hard days. You're
Yeah.
crushing it.
Thank you. Thank you sincerely. And I'm happy to be here. And I hope it helps other listeners and people to sign up and take some steps.
Yeah. Well, we will hopefully be hearing from you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Wendy.
I'll see you online.
I'll see you online.
All right.